Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, in the past, I have done videos where I will relate debt and debt issuance to gardening or farming, because in my mind, it's very similar. When you think about it, after a recession, what is it that you hear like coming from like the politicians and economists and stuff like that? You hear about green shoots, right? Well, this is because the economy has crashed, right? And it's like barren earth out there. And they need to get things rolling out there. So, in order for people to like start up businesses or say get into buying cars or going out to eat and hanging out, they have to start issuing out debt. But it's only like the best debt that people are going to get. If you have like bad credit, it's going to be very difficult to get it because you're in the early days of debt issuance. As time goes on, it gets a little easier. But this initial like seeding the earth, this is what gets the plants to grow. This is what gets the economy to grow. And if you think about it, as time goes on and things start to flourish and they drop interest rates to try and get more people out there to take on more debt, that's like seeding and watering and fertilizing. But eventually it gets to a point where everything is just beautiful and lush and awesome. And you look out at the garden, at the farm, and everything is just perfect and beautiful and ripe and awesome. And then the next day you go out there and it's like ugly and all the plants are gone and it's just nothing but broken sticks and dead plants because all the fruit, all the vegetables, all the product that came from that has been harvested. And so when you think about people taking on debt to build their homes, to build a business, and a recession comes, they turn off the water essentially, the interest rates start to rise, they make it difficult to get out debt, and all of a sudden things start to contract. That's them harvesting. Because you think about it, what's going on? People are starting to lose the ability to make the payments. And then they lose their business, they lose their house, they lose everything that they had taken out loans for, gets repossessed for pennies on the dollar. And this is the harvest time. Does that kind of make sense? So I think about it a lot when I bought the house. When I tried to buy a house and I couldn't make the payments anymore and I finally just gave up on it all and I was way underwater on it for how much I owed to, how much I could have sold it for. I just gave up. I just I just didn't even want to deal with it anymore. The depression had me to the point that it wasn't just, it just wasn't worth it to me anymore. And somebody got it for cheap. They got the roof that I put on it. They got all the work that I had put into the thing. They got for nothing, essentially. They got it for a discount because they ended up getting it for less than what I paid for the house. And same thing when I think about like the former employer I used to work for. He had built two beautiful buildings, two awesome locations for his business. And when he couldn't make the payments on it anymore and they repossessed those buildings and they got sold at auction, the people who got those buildings got for pennies on the dollar some of the most beautiful buildings in the area. Murals on the walls, stained concrete floor that looked like marble that was heated. Generator, this building was so beautiful. It was a hardware store. It was so beautiful. The power would go out, like, we get some pretty heavy storms around here. The power would go out and they had a 350 cubic inch Chevy engine, V8, that would fire up, boom, and run the generator. Power was never out there. Everything worked all the time. And when it went for cheap. Whoever it is that got it at auction, well, I know who got it. It was it doesn't matter who got it. But anyway, they got that building for an incredibly low price. But now I think about like what's happening with real estate now. Okay, because you have all these people in forbearance, so like the housing market hasn't really seen a crash, but like an uptick in home sales. Like, the prices are going up, the inventory is low. These are things that you would assume would be corresponding with a say like a good economy. But economically, we're not doing really well right now, but yet the housing market seems or appears to be doing just fine. Well, That's because of all the forbearance. That's because of all the forbearance and the fact that people didn't have to be making their payments. Then you don't see the foreclosures that should have been taking place. But you are finding the issues taking place in the commercial real estate. And this is where it draws this whole thing down to my point, is that I came across an article where a couple of hotels down in Texas have got their basically their notice of default on their loans. Okay? Meaning that they're going to get repossessed or, go up for auction, whatever happens to them. They're, the people who had taken out the loan to buy the hotel, they're losing their hotel. And the people who own a couple of these hotels is a real estate investment trust, right? So this is like a group of pooled money that buy into real estate. And this real estate investment trust is based in Singapore. So is it Singapore that had taken out, investors in Singapore who have this real estate investment trust that they've been investing in, who have made purchases in the United States of hotels that are defaulting right now from the COVID crisis that, brings a lack of people coming in. In fact, I think they said that the hotels have been closed altogether. So isn't that interesting? So these real estate investment trusts from a foreign country that has invested here in the United States is getting their stuff repossessed. Well, isn't that interesting? I wonder how big and how deep and how vast that goes. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.